محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إني أفتتح الثناء بحمدك وأنت مسدد للصواب بمنك، وأيقنت أنك أنت أرحم الراحمين في موضع العفو والرحمة، وأشد المعاقبين في موضع النكال والنقمة، وأعظم المتجبرين في موضع الكبرياء والعظمة. اللهم أذنت لي في دعائك ومسألتك، فاسمع يا سميع مدحتي، وأجب يا رحيم دعوتي، وأقل يا غفور عثرتي. فكم يا إلهي من كربة قد فرجتها، وهموم قد كشفتها، وعثرة قد أقلتها، ورحمة قد نشرتها، وحلقة بلاء قد فككتها. الحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا، ولم يكن له شريك في الملك، ولم يكن له ولي من الذل، وكبروا تكبيرا. الحمد لله بجميع محامده كلها، على جميع نعمه كلها. الحمد لله الذي لا مضاد له في ملكه، ولا منازع له في أمره. الحمد لله الذي لا شريك له في خلقه، ولا شبيه له في عظمته. الحمد لله الفاشي في الخلق أمره وحمده، الظاهر بالكرم مجده، الباسط بالجود يده، الذي لا تنقص خزائنه ولا تزيده كثرة العطاء إلا جودا وكرما، إنه هو العزيز الوهاب. اللهم إني أسألك قليلا من كثير، مع حاجة بي إليه عظيمة، وغناك عنه قديم، وهو عندي كثير، وهو عليك سهل يسير. اللهم إن عفوك عن ذنبي، وتجاوزك عن خطيئتي، وصفحك عن ظلمي، وسترك على قبيح عملي عندما كان من خطئي، وسترك على قبيح عملي، وحلمك عن كثير جرمي عندما كان من خطئي وعمدي. أطمعني في أن أسألك ما لا أستوجبه منك، الذي رزقتني من رحمتك، وأريتني من قدرتك، وعرفتني من إجابتك، وصرت أدعوك آمنا، وأسألك مستأنسا، لا خائفا ولا وجلا، مدلا عليك فيما قصدت فيه إليك. فإن أبطأ عني عتبت بجهلي عليك، ولعل الذي أبطأ عني هو خير لي لعلمك بعاقبة الأمور. فلم أر مولا كريما أصبر على عبد لئيم منك علي يا رب. إنك تدعوني فأولي عنك، وتتحبب إلي فأتبغض إليك، وتتودد إلي فلا أقبل منك، كأن لي التطول عليك. فلم يمنعك ذلك من الرحمة لي والإحسان إلي والتفضل علي بجودك وكرمك. وارحم عبدك الجاهل وجد عليه بفضل إحسانك، إنك جواد كريم. الحمد لله مالك الملك مجري الفلك مسخر الرياح، فالق الإصباح ديان الدين رب العالمين. الحمد لله على حلمه بعد علمه، والحمد لله على عفوه بعد قدرته، والحمد لله على طول أناته في غضبه، وهو قادر على ما يريد. الحمد لله خالق الخلق باسط الرزق خالق الإصباح ذي الجلال والإكرام والفضل والإنعام، الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى. الحمد لله الذي ليس له منازع يعادله، ولا شبيه يشاكله، ولا ظهير يعاضده. قار بعزته الأعزاء وتواضع لعظمته العظماء، فبلغ بقدرته ما يشاء. الحمد لله الذي يجيبني حين أناديه، ويستر علي كل عورة وأنا أعصيه، ويعظم النعمة علي فلا أجازيه. فكم من موهبة هنيئة قد أعطاني، وعظيمة مخوفة قد كفاني، وباجة مونقة قد أراني. فأثني عليه حامدا وأذكره مسبحا. الحمد لله الذي لا يهتك حجابه، ولا يغلق بابه، ولا يرد سائله، ولا يخيب آمله. الحمد لله الذي يؤمن الخائفين وينجي الصالحين ويرفع المستضعفين ويضع المستكبرين، ويهلك ملوكا ويستخلف آخرين. والحمد لله قاصم الجبارين مبير الظالمين مدرك الهاربين نكالي الظالمين صريخ المستصرخين موضع حاجات الطالبين معتمدي المؤمنين. الحمد لله الذي من خشيته ترعد السماء وسكانها، وترجف الأرض وعمارها، وتموج البحار ومن يسبح في غمراتها. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. الحمد لله الذي يخلق ولم يخلق، ويرزق ولا يرزق، ويطعم ولا يطعم، ويميت الأحياء ويحيي الموتى، وهو حي لا يموت بيده الخير، وهو على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وأمينك وصفيك وحبيبك وخيرتك من خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالاتك، أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وأكمل وأزكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسنى وأكثر ما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت وسلمت على أحد من عبادك وأنبيائك ورسلك وصفوتك وأهل الكرامة عليك من خلقك. اللهم وصل على علي أمير المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين، عبدك ووليك وأخي رسولك وحجتك على خلقك وآيتك الكبرى والنبأ العظيم. وصل على الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. وصل على سبطي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. وصل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي، حججك على عبادك وأمنائك في بلادك صلاة كثيرة دائمة. اللهم وصل على ولي أمرك القائم المؤمل والعدل المنتظر وحفه بملائكتك المقربين وأيده بروح القدس يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعله الداعي إلى كتابك والقائم بدينك، استخلفه في الأرض كما استخلفت الذين من قبله، مكن له دينه الذي ارتضيته له، أبدله من بعد خوفه أمنا يعبدك لا يشرك بك شيئا. اللهم أعزه وأعزز به وانصره وانتصر به وانصره نصرا عزيزا، وافتح له فتحا يسيرا واجعل له من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. اللهم أظهر به دينك وسنة نبيك حتى لا يستخفي بشيء من الحق مخافة أحد من الخلق. اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة تعز بها الإسلام وأهله وتذل بها النفاق وأهله، وتجعلنا فيها من الدعاة إلى طاعتك والقادة إلى سبيلك، وترزقنا بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما عرفتنا من الحق فحملناه وما قصرنا عنه فبلغناه. اللهم المم به شعثنا واشعب به صدعنا وارتق به فتقنا وكثر به قلتنا واعز به ذلتنا واغني به عائلنا واقض به عن مغرمنا واجبر به فقرنا وسد به خلتنا ويسر به عسرنا وبيض به وجوهنا وفك به أسرنا وأنجح به طلبتنا وأنجز به مواعيدنا واستجب به دعوتنا وأعطنا به سؤلنا وبلغنا به من الدنيا والآخرة آمالنا وأعطنا به فوق رغبتنا يا خير المسؤولين وأوسع المعطين. اشف به صدورنا وأذهب به غيظ قلوبنا واهدنا به لما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنك، إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. وانصرنا به على عدوك وعدونا إله الحق آمين. اللهم إنا نشكو إليك فقد نبينا صلواتك عليه وآله وغيبة ولينا وكثرة عدونا وقلة عددنا وشدة الفتن بنا وتظاهر الزمان علينا. فصل على محمد وآله وأعنا على ذلك بفتح منك تعجله وبضر تكشفه ونصر تعزه وسلطان حق تظهره، ورحمة منك تجللناها وعافية منك تلبسناها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم برحمتك في الصالحين فأدخلنا، وفي عليين فارفعنا، وبكأس من معين من عين سلسبيل فاسقنا، ومن الحور العين برحمتك فزوجنا، ومن الولدان المخلدين كأنهم لؤلؤ مكنون فأخدمنا، ومن ثمار الجنة ولحوم الطير فأطعمنا، ومن ثياب السندس والحرير والاستبرق فألبسنا، وليلة القدر وحج بيتك الحرام وقتلا في سبيلك فوفق لنا، وصالح الدعاء والمسألة فاستجب لنا، وإذا جمعت الأولين والآخرين يوم القيامة فارحمنا، وبراءة من النار فاكتب لنا، وفي جهنم فلا تغلنا، وفي عذابك وهوانك فلا تبتلنا، ومن الزقوم والضريع فلا تطعمنا، ومع الشياطين فلا تجعلنا، وفي النار على وجوهنا فلا تكببنا، ومن ثياب النار وسرابيل القطران فلا تلبسنا، ومن كل سوء يا لا إله إلا أنت، بحق لا إله إلا أنت فنجنا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصل اللهم على محمد وآله الطاهرين.
لحمن صلى على محمد وآل محمد. صلوات شوية ما أدري ضعيفة. اللهم صل على محمد. يعرف بالموضوع أبو مريم ما شاء الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Welcome to the 10th night of Shahr Ramadan al-Mubarak. We are a third of the way in. Time is running fast. As such, we have to maximize this time, maximize our use of it, maximize the opportunities given to us. What are some of those opportunities? For youth, 16 and under, 3 age groups, there's a Quran competition, memorization. The first age group is 0 to 6. I don't think any 0 age, 1 year age are going to be reciting, but maybe they have something memorized. But 6 and under, to memorize 20 ayahs. And then 7 to 11, memorizing 50 ayahs. 12 to 16, memorizing 100 ayahs. If you're over 16, there's no competition for you. But what you can do is practice and come and recite throughout the rest of the year for our regular scheduled programs. Why is it funny? So that's something you can do. That's a big prize in and of itself. And that just threw me off, bro. Inshallah, so youth 16 and under, you can sign up using the QR code. It's on the screens and it will be on Instagram in the bio. There's a Google form. Please sign up your children that are 16 under and sign them up in their respective age group and start memorizing. The first round is on Friday. Remember, the ayahs don't have to be contiguous. They don't all have to be from the same surah. They can be from multiple surah. So if you have, a bunch of surah from Juz' 30 memorized, there you go. You add them up. If it adds up to 20 or 50 or 100 ayahs, you're good to go. The next item on the agenda is to encourage you all, to encourage you all to buy raffle tickets. Raffle tickets are for sale. The eve of Eid, there will be the draw for the raffle tickets. The raffle tickets are each $5 or 5 for 20. Yeah, each of them is $5 or 5 tickets for $20, or I don't know how many for $100, but more for $100. The regular scale thing where if you buy more, you get more. Whatever, progressive taxation, all that stuff. Anyway, so 3 for 10, that works too. Yeah, 3 for 10. He sorted it out. But then 5 for 20 seems like a worse deal. Because then you could just buy 2 10s and get 6. But yeah, that works too. Whatever you say. Abu Aqil, he's in charge. Anyway, so the raffle tickets for sale. Yeah, if you want to buy any, approach me or Brother Athir or anyone from the team. You know us all by face at this point. Hold on to your tickets. Please don't lose them. Don't come to us on the night before Eid when we're doing the draw. You're like, يابا أنا اشتريت تيكيتات بس ضيعتهن. ماكو ما أقدر أسوي لك شارة. انتهت. سوري. إن شاء الله اشتري بعد جزاك عيد رب العالمين إن شاء الله. Okay? Inshallah. So without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Ali for tonight's talk with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم اللعين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. My dear sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الكريم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإن خفتم شقاق بينهما فابعثوا حكما من أهله وحكما من أهلها إن يريدا إصلاحا يوفق الله بينهما إن الله كان عليما خبيرا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. So we continue our discussion from yesterday, where we were discussing the ways in order for us to sustain a healthy relationship between a husband and wife, something that we all want to make sure that we continue having that particular good, healthy, spiritual, loving relationship. And so in order for us to do this, it's always important to remind ourselves, how can we make sure that we are always on the same side of the, in terms of when conflicts happen, we're try to make sure that we resolve certain conflicts. We try to make sure that we always remember that because I love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and she loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we love each other. And having Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always involved in our relationships gives it that strength. And so today, inshallah, my dear sisters and brothers, we want to continue with our discussion. And we want to talk about something that perhaps you haven't heard of before, but something that has been researched quite a lot by an individual called John Gottman. This individual, who is a relationship expert, he has studied many, many different relationships between married couples. And he has given the society a lot of ideas into how to strengthen that particular relationship. And he once did a very long study of many, many years of examining the conflicts of individuals, of couples, and trying to really find out whether these particular conflicts, how do they result, what are the nature of these conflicts. So today, inshallah, we're going to examine this particular part. We're going to examine conflicts, fights, so to speak, if you like to say fights, yes? And whether we can reach a compromise with conflicts, whether there are certain conflicts that are we can't reach any compromise with. What can we do when a couple go through a conflict, perhaps sometimes a conflict that will last for a long, long time. There are conflicts that sometimes they go to sleep and they don't talk to each other, yes? And then perhaps for a few days, and unfortunately some of them take months and then might lead to divorce. So we want to make sure that we are equipped with the right tools so that when a conflict happens, and if a conflict was to happen, then we know how to manage these particular conflicts. Now, صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. So what he said, okay, so when it comes to conflicts, okay, there are usually two different types of conflicts. There is one which is a solvable conflict, yes, and there is another one which is unsolvable conflict. Okay, there is a solvable and an unsolvable conflict. So let me explain these particular two types of conflicts. So the solvable conflicts, they don't have a deeper meaning. So it are things that you can solve in terms of if it's a problem, you can solve it. And the best way to do this is, of course, give you some examples. So, for example, you have you've agreed that the husband should do the dishes, yes, after dinner. Every day when you guys have dinner, yes, the husband should do the dishes. Put them in the dishwasher or wash the dishes. Now, sometimes the husband forgets, yes, because he's busy maybe with some other things. Maybe he does appointments with his friends, or he wants to go out somewhere or whatever, and he goes out after dinner and then comes back late, and then his wife is waiting for him near the door saying, Shulyom, you didn't wash the dishes. And he says, oh, I completely forgot. And then there's a conflict. I never trust you. I can never rely on you. You're always like this. You don't give this particular house a priority. And then it starts to have a conflict and then a fight. Yes? This, my dear brothers and sisters, it's a solvable conflict. Why? Because it's a fixable problem. You can reach a solution to this particular problem. So what is the solution here? The husband can make sure he has a schedule. Perhaps he puts in an alarm. Yes. Maybe he tells his wife to remind him, okay, that you gotta wash the dishes today. Today is your day. After dinner, we've agreed that you wash the dishes. So it's a solvable problem. Yes, there are solutions to this. And for example, another example I can is that a husband, okay, the husband has a schedule where he's got to take the trash out. Yes, we call it rubbish. You guys call it the trash. No? Garbage, Afwan, samhuni. The garbage out, tikramun, garbage out. Yes? So he has a schedule where every Monday he has to take the garbage out. And then again, he forgets. Yes? And then there's a conflict. Again, these particular chores, the garbage, the dishes, whatever, you put a schedule in. Okay? And it's a fixable conflict. Now, there could be another one which could say, well, okay, one of the spouses, maybe the wife, she says, well, I really don't want to go to the masjid. I really don't like to go to the jami'. I don't like it. I don't really have time, etc. And the other one says, no, actually, it's good for us to go to the jami'. Okay? Now, in this particular case, you can try to reach a compromise or you can solve this particular conflict by saying, okay, let's sometimes we go and sometimes we won't go, okay? Or, for example, there is another example where the wife wants to go to the jami', but she doesn't want to go late, okay? And then the husband sometimes is late, okay? So they come with a compromise and they say, okay, so, let's always want you 15 minutes before we set the time we set you want to go, or we want to go, you've got to try to go and change and allow that window. So there is a solution to these particular problems. Another example, just so that I can make sure that you all understand what is solvable conflicts, is that, when a wife wants to maybe cook something, she says, I like timman wa qima. And the husband says, la, I want some parcha, But the wife hates parcha. She doesn't like parcha. And he doesn't really like timman wa qima. So that is a conflict. So they say, no, you always cook parcha and you always cook. I don't like the smell of it. I don't like the skull or the brain or the tongue and the madri shunu. No, so then there is a conflict. Yes, it might be a trivial conflict, but still there's a conflict. Okay. So what they can do is they say 1 week, one Sunday we can do qima, and then the next week we can do some parcha or something like that. What I'm trying to say is that there is a solution to these problems. Okay. Final example, just so that I 100% know you understand, is that one person, for example, likes hiking, the other person likes to sit home and relax. Okay. And so you might come up with a solution, say, okay, let's go hiking in the morning for a quick hike, and then we come back and we can relax at home. Okay? So again, there is a solvable, it's a solvable conflict. Now, in these particular cases, all of these conflicts that we've talked about, they don't have deep meaning. Do you understand? So, mal qima pacha madashina is not really a deep meaning. Mal he didn't take out the trash is not the end of the world. There's no deep meaning in this. So they are solvable. So there are solutions to this. Now the biggest problem comes when the problems are what? The conflicts are unsolvable. Yes? And this particular individual, John Gottman, he did a study, a long study spanning many years, where he found out that 69% of the problems, the conflicts that happen between couples are actually unsolvable. Yeah, they're unsolvable. What does unsolvable mean? Unsolvable means it's the opposite of solvable. It has deep meaning. Yes, conflicts that have deep meaning is deep-seated issues that stem from fundamental differences between a couple. Yes, and it usually something to do with their personality, it's to do with their values or life goals. Yes, and it's very difficult to shake. It's extremely difficult to shake. So unsolvable, so solvable are fixable problems. Yes, unsolvable, they are fundamental differences, deep-rooted differences. Do you see the difference? Yeah. Let me give you some examples. So for example, just as to explain unsolvable, if it's raining outside, okay, can I change the weather? I can't change the weather. But what I can do is wear raincoat so I don't become wet. Okay? It's a situation that I can't solve. And I can't change the weather, but I can try to come up with a compromise, with a with a fix in me trying to put on a raincoat so that I don't get wet. Do you see this analogy? So let me give you examples of unsolvable conflicts. So unsolvable conflict, for example, someone says, okay, so I love going out with friends on weekends. Yes? And someone says, no, I prefer staying home. Going out drains me. Now, you might think this is very similar to the solvable. That's why I gave you a lot of solvable, because it's a very fine line between unsolvable and solvable, right? And this particular case is actually an unsolvable. Why? Because it has a much more deeper meaning. Why is it that this person, maybe الرجل, the husband, loves to go out? يلا خلنا نروح نطلع نزور فلان. لا أنا تعبانة. لا أنا ما أريد أطلع. No, but the wife, for example, the husband says, let's invite these people for iftar, for example. She says, no, I don't want, or the other way around. Okay? The reason for that, there's something deep-rooted, either in her or his personality, that he is more outgoing, he wants to go out more, he wants to see people more, he's more social. She's more reserved. She's more like, no, I want to stay home. I relax when I am at home. I relax when I am not really with people. I am relaxed when I'm not socializing. Okay? And that could be the issue of introverted and extroverted, isn't it? So someone is extroverted, it's deep-rooted in them. It's not an issue that you can change in one night. It's not a solvable issue. If someone is extroverted and someone is introverted, you know the difference, yes? They say that extroverted, a very quick example of the difference between extroverted and introverted. An extroverted someone, when you enter a particular gathering, for example, yes? The extroverted, he comes in, Assalamu alaikum, Allah yasa'adkum, shankum, hi, he starts to, say salam to everyone, hugging, and then, and they're quite loud. The introverted comes in, no, he wants to take their time, because they're not loud. They don't want to scream in front of everyone. They don't want to say, look, I am here. They want to take their time. They want to examine what's going on. They don't want this awkward situations where I say salam to someone and then I don't know what to say after that. You know, sometimes you say salam to someone and then you don't know what topic to talk about. You know, it becomes an awkward silence. You know, it's like, what are we going to talk about? So they think about what are the next steps. If I was to say salam to one of you guys, okay, then what am I going to say? What topic are we going to talk about? They think about all these things. These are introverts, okay? So a husband wants to go out. The wife wants to stay home, okay? Or, for example, a husband wants to invite his friends. The wife says, no, I can't allow you to do that. Why? You know, it's too much. It's going to be noise. I have to make some food. You say, don't worry, I'll make the food. No, I don't want. And then it becomes a clash. I do know of situations where a husband wants to invite guests to their house. The wife says no. Now, the wife might say no because a lot of the work is going to be done by the wife. Or it could be because she's introverted and he's extroverted. He rather has people over and she rather what? Doesn't. Okay? So this is a unsolvable issue. And then there will be conflicts. Now, another example is parenting. And we'll talk about parenting starting from tomorrow, inshallah. So the different viewpoints on parenting. So one, maybe the husband says, I follow a strict discipline method. Okay, I make sure that they're punished for if they were to become naughty. I make sure that I stop giving them whatever they love because they've become naughty, etc. That's very strict. Okay, I don't give them to play games. I don't let them watch TV. I don't let them. The wife is not very lenient. Again, this is deep-rooted. Why? It's because maybe the husband, the way he was brought up by his father, was very strict. And he's very much used to that particular methodology. Whereas the wife, the way she was brought up by her parents is very lenient. Okay? So she's used to that particular leniency. So she applies that to her children because this is what she knows. And this was in her childhood. This is what's been taught to her during childhood. Whereas the husband, he was brought up by the parents very, very strict. Like, again, for example, on religious aspects. That's another example of unsolvable. Maybe the husband is very religious and he says, no, I want it salah time. I want them all to come to salah. Yalla wainak, come salah right now. Okay, if you don't come for salah, I'm going to stop you, playing games or whatever. The wife comes and says, why are you forcing him to pray? There's no need to force. He says, please don't get involved in the parenting. This issue is my job. He says, no, why are you talking to me like this? No. I want him to come and pray salah now. He's locked himself in his room. He's not coming out. The salah time round, he needs to come now. I'm going to go upstairs and open the door. He says, don't come out. And then there will be a conflict. There will be a fight between the two. It's a different approach to parenting. A different approach. Why? It's because, again, it's deep-rooted in how they were brought up when they were young. Do you guys understand? This is an unsolvable. So when when the husband comes and speaks to a Maulana, a Sheikh, a Sayyid, يقول والله سيدنا أنا هاي المرة ما أقدر وياها بعد صعبة. زين؟ يقول له ليش؟ Why I can't with this woman. It's difficult for me. Say, why? Because I tell her that we have to make sure that my son has to pray at that time, and she says, no, take it easy. So, in his point of view, he wants to change his wife to be like him. Do you see the difference? He wants his wife to be like him. He wants his wife to be strict when it comes to for prayer. Strict when it comes to religious aspects. Yes? Strict when it comes to parenting. But his wife is not like that. هاي مو طبيعتها. You can't change her her deeper meaning of parenting. You can't change that. And the conflicts in Unsolvable, the problem that comes is that what happens is we always want to change our spouses to become like us in these particular unsolvable issues. I wish that she is like me because I am the best. And I know best, because that methodology of forcing my son to come and pray, that's the best methodology. Of course, it's not just an opinion, it is how it's supposed to be, he says. But there is another point of view that says, well, actually, if you force him down and you keep on, he's going to hate prayers. But I am not willing to accept this. This is the way I was brought up. This is the way how it should be. And I wish my wife agrees with this. But no, she won't agree, because this is also, there's a deeper meaning in her heart regarding these issues. It's a deep-seated issue, okay? And she's not just going to accept like this. And that is why this is called unsolvable. You can't solve it. You can't solve it. As much as you can تروح تقول للمولانا, please solve this issue for me. You can't solve it. It's an unsolvable. So what do we do about it? Yeah? Another one, which is an unsolvable example of a conflict, is that one person is neat, the other person is messy. Yeah? I'm sorry, but that's deep-seated. When someone is دائما يعني هيك يشمر هدومه when it goes to just like throws their clothes, doesn't like يصفطهن شنو بالعرب انجليزي fold it, yes, doesn't fold it properly, yeah, and is not like clean, and sometimes wears, even if it's dirty clothes, they wear them, like if they've a shirt or whatever that they've worn for like 2-3 days, they keep on wearing it. But the other person comes in and says, look, why is your clothes all over our bed? I've told you so many times, don't do that. If it's dirty, put it in the dirty clothes. If it's not dirty, then hang it. Why are you throwing it on the bed? It's because this is how he is. It's deep-seated in him that when he was young, he was doing this. You can't solve this issue. As much as you tell him, Baba, just fold your clothes, put it in the other, it can't be solved. So then the wife will think, I wish he was like me, where I fold my clothes very well, I put them in the cupboard, in the drawers, okay? It's so beautiful, so nice. But he's just messy. He's a messy guy. It's difficult to change a messy guy and make him become unmessy and clean and proper, okay? It is an unsolvable. Another unsolvable example, just so that I know you all understand this very, very well, is spending and non-spending. I don't want to say which gender spends more. These days, a lot of men spend a lot of money, okay? But one spends a lot, loves to spend, the other doesn't. You know, when you like take your wife to a restaurant, and then she looks at the menu and says, well, yeah, I want this, and I want that, and I want that drink, and I want this, and then your heart is just going, my God, It's because you're someone who doesn't want to spend much, okay? She, on the other hand, loves to spend. Okay, let me say the example the other way around, because maybe they say, you love to spend, the wife doesn't like to spend. Does that make sense? صحيحة؟ لو بالعكس بالرestaurant صحيح اي صلوا على محمد وآله. So the husband is quite strict with the money. Yes? When he looks at the bill, when he looks at, his bank statements, he looks at all these bills, etc., he comes and speaks to his wife. And he say, why are you spending so much money on shopping? Why are you, all these particular, I can see Costco, this amount of dollars, this, whatever supermarkets you guys have here, okay, this amount. I've told you our balance is like this. And she says, well, that's not fair. You don't even know that I've got to feed my children. They have these requirements. I've got to do pack lunch in the morning, give them lunch, give them breakfast, give them thing. I have to cook. You don't even, you're not involved in cooking. You say, well, it's too much. I've told you don't buy this drink and don't buy that thing and don't buy these fruits and don't buy that thing. There's no need. These is extra. And then it becomes a conflict. This, believe it or not, is an unsolvable. Because it's not, I'm not trying to say, of course, sometimes the husband do not know the situation with shopping. It's true, because the wives, they spend because they need to spend. But there are situations where when someone wants to spend, they don't like, they think it's okay if I buy this, or it's okay if I buy that, or I try to overspend, or I try to buy these particular clothes that I don't necessarily need, yeah, but I still buy them, or these particular shoes that I don't necessarily need, but I still buy them, okay? Whereas maybe the other side will do what? Will say, why? This is israf. إن المبذرين كانوا إخوان الشياطين وكان الشيطان لربه كفورا. Yes? So, this is an unsolvable. Yes? When someone spends and someone doesn't. So another example is holidays. One of them loves to go to holidays. The other one says, it's better if we stay home or if we stay inside Canada, for example. Do like a domestic holiday. The other one says, no, I want to go to Dubai. I want to go to Turkey. I want to go somewhere else. This guy's like, it's better if we stay home. Right? Or stay within the vicinity or come to Masjid is better. That's a good holiday. Okay? So it's a bit tight. And by the way, just as a quick digression, but it's really important point. The concept of money is really important when we talk about spending. So when we talk about spending, that a mu'min, whatever they spend, they are made accountable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so if I've got like 10 of these tissue boxes at home, and I go and find an offer or whatever, or I say, I need more tissue boxes, I buy them, I'm going to be made accountable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why did you buy more tissue boxes if you have so many? Yeah, and especially regarding food. Today I was speaking to my wife back in London, and what they're doing down there is they're taking children to these charities, okay, homeless charities. Our children, in our community, they're taking them to these homeless charities, and there are food banks. Do you guys have food banks here? Yeah. So there are food banks. So my son went and stood. There's lots of fruits, and these particular fruits, the supermarkets, they give them away because the next day they expire, or they're about to expire, like cucumbers and tomatoes, okay, and all these particular veg and all these different items, products. So, and then you have a queue of people who, not just homeless people, but people who are very poor. Okay, they have a place to stay, but they can't afford to buy food, and so they were giving them. Okay, and then it's like shopping, but it's for free. Okay, and so when we look at how much we spend in terms of how much food we actually waste, yes, it's incredible. And there have been studies shown that a lot of households, those especially in Western countries, they throw a lot of food out. A lot of food. And for us as mu'mineen, we are responsible. Yes, if we shop and we make that particular amount of food, we are responsible in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make sure that there's no tabdhir. And you guys know this, but it's just a reminder that there shouldn't be any tabdhir. Yes? And which brings me to my final point regarding this digression, is the issue of recycling. We're not very good at recycling. Yes? Whereas there's numerous hadiths from the Prophet ﷺ that he used to do what? Take care of the environment. And there are narrations that we are responsible in taking care of the environment. Yes? Because in the environment there are living creatures, and they are affected by the waste that we put out there. So having that mentality of recycling, I know there are certain individuals in our communities who just say, "Allah, just throw that can in the rubbish bin." No, others benefit from this. If you just try to shift in your behavior, shift in terms of your mentality, and try to help the environment. And for me, I do believe that it's mustahab to do that. You get reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you try to help the environment. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. One final example, because I gave you lots of examples, but I just want to make sure you all understand it. One final example is intimacy between a couple. Yes? One part which says, one spouse says, well, I don't want to have much intimacy. Okay? Whatever, that many times, whatever. Okay? And the other one says, no, I want more intimacy. Again, this is what they say, this is unsolvable. Again, it's to do with their understanding of intimacy, the way that they were brought up, the amount of anxiety that they might have, something related to intimacy, right? Or certain individuals might even have trauma to do with intimacy. Okay, so that could also be an unsolvable. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Right. So I've given you all these unsolvables, but I didn't give you what are we supposed to do when we are faced with these particular unsolvable conflicts. Now, the question we want to ask is, can you have a happy marriage while 70% of your conflicts are unsolvable? Can you or can you not? Or is always going to be 70% of the time is going to be conflicts? Well, the good news is that you can have a happy marriage, but you've got to understand certain principles. And this, my dear brothers and sisters, is why we always try to encourage our youngsters to do premarital courses before you get married. Okay? It's not right for you just to delve into marriage and then there's so many unsolvable conflicts that happen between you and your spouse, but you don't even know they're unsolvable. You're on auto mode. You say, I wish she was like me. Or she will say, I wish he was like me. But you can't change him. You can't change her. It's not a matter of, like this. I know a particular case where one of the sisters, she consulted me about this particular husband. I said, well, I don't think you're a match. I said this, I don't think you're a match because you're different. She said, no, I will change him. It's not possible. You can't change an individual like this. Okay? It might take huge amounts of time to change, but we all want to change our spouses so that they become like us because I think I'm great. I think I'm brilliant. I think not spending is great. I think that intimacy is great. I think that all these particular unsolvables, I think this is it, but the other person doesn't. Okay? But I will change how they are. I will make sure that they don't spend. I will make sure that the intimacy is great. I will make sure. No, it's not like that. It's not easy like that. That's why my advice to those people who are still single and looking to get married is these issues, you've got to understand what's solvable and unsolvable. And when you have a particular conflict or a situation, you should label this as solvable or unsolvable. If it's solvable, then find the solution. If it's unsolvable, then try to make sure that you come up with a compromise, with a resolution, which we're going to talk about, inshallah. So 5 ways, we're going to talk about 5 ways to manage unsolvable problems. Number 1, and I can't stress this particular point enough, and it's such an obvious point, but we completely miss it, is that acknowledge that a man and a woman are different. They're actually different. You've heard of the book, one is from Mars and Venus. Mars and Venus. We're from different planets. Our wiring inside us here, in our brain, the wiring is different. It's different. Okay? And so the way we think, the way we behave, is different. So when you enter a marriage, this individual that you have promised to protect, this individual that you have promised to support, to love, is actually different from you. Acknowledge this. Behaviorally, they're different. Spiritually, under the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're equal. Men and women are equal under the eyes of God. But behaviorally, we are different. Isn't this obvious? But when we enter marriage, we don't acknowledge this and say, well, actually, my wife is different to me in terms of behavior, in terms of rewiring, in terms of, the whole psychologically. Yes? So I've got to acknowledge that. Some, studies have shown that men generally show less emotional expressiveness. Women do what? They show more emotional expressiveness. It's a fact. Yeah? Men, they prefer a more analytical, logical approach to problem solving, more of a prefrontal cortex, usage of prefrontal cortex. The women, they prefer a more holistic and intuitive approach to problem solving. Yeah? We, men, we're less empathic than women. So, an example. So if you're waiting for your wife at home, and your wife comes back from work, say, okay, and she's late for an hour. She's late for more than an hour. And she comes back, it was raining, lots of traffic. She comes back, she's really tired. And it's, she says, I've had such a horrible journey back home. It was so much traffic. It was raining always. What's your response to her? Is it that I've always told you, don't use Google Maps, use Waze? Use Waze. Waze gives you better, you guys have Waze? Yeah. Use Waze. It's better than Google Maps. Okay? Because Waze shows you different parts. That's not what she wants to hear from you. It's not what she wants to hear from you. Or you tell her, I'm really sorry what you're going through. I can't imagine what you went through. Allah يساعدك. Yeah, Allah يساعدك. Ahsant. Allah يساعدك. Okay? May God help you. It doesn't sound great when you turn it into English. Yeah, may God help you. But Allah يساعدك sounds better. So Allah يساعدك. It's an empathic approach. And that empathy is beautiful. It really is beautiful if we can practice it. But we men, we're not very good with that. What we want to do is solve the problem. We always want to solve a problem. Like if she is ill, you say, I told you take some paracetamol. I told you take some vitamin C. We want to fix it. Whereas what they want is empathy. Sometimes they want to hear. They want us to what? They want to hear something beautiful from us. But no, we try to solve the problem. Yeah? And that is a very different approach. It's how we're wired, guys. We are wired differently to how they were wired. So I've got to understand that. I've got to acknowledge that. And I try to make sure that I am more empathic towards her. Do you understand? Yeah. Number 2, so that's number 1. Acknowledge that we are different, men and women. Number 2 is accept that this particular unsolvable issue will not disappear. It won't go away like this. Otherwise, it will be a solvable issue. But this is a deep-rooted, deep-seated issue. So, for example, intimacy. It's not going to go away where one of them wants more intimacy, the other one doesn't really want a lot of intimacy. It's not just going to go away overnight. Yes? Another one is to do with parenting style. Not that someone's going to wake up and say, yes, let's do your way of parenting. It's different. Okay? So it's not going to disappear. So what we need to do is we need to respect his or her hope, aspirations, and wishes. Just have some respect. Yes, I disagree with it, but she or he are your partners. You are, remember, you love them because they love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we respect that particular aspiration. Yes? It's so important, my dear brothers and sisters, to try and find a way around it. You find ways to work around it, not solve or fix the problem, because it's unsolvable. Okay? And also, don't try to win this particular argument when you have that conflict. It's not about winning, because no one is going to win, because it's an unsolvable conflict. What you really need to do, yes, is understand each other, because you both are different. Understand where each other's come from. Because this is an unsolvable, I've got to understand that this is unsolvable. She has her perspective, I have my perspective. But we got to work a way around it. So let's go through some of the examples that we talked about, and we see how we go way around it. So the introverted, extroverted. Do you remember the introverted, extroverted? Right? So compromise. With unsolvables, you come to a compromise. And you can say, okay, look, because this is an unsolvable, we're not going to agree on this. Okay? Remember, the solvable, we agree. Yes, I'm wrong. I should have taken the trash out. I'll put this alarm. Yes, the chores, etc. This is an unsolvable. So what am I going to do? I'm going to work a way around it. Okay? So let's come to a compromise. If you allow me to bring some people in our house one day, okay, we'll make sure that for the next 2 or 3 weeks, I won't bring anyone to the house. Okay, so it will be once a month I can bring people to the house. It's like it's a compromise. I mean, I don't know. I'm just giving examples here. But you can say, 2 days in a whole month that I can bring people. I won't bring any more. Because it's deep-seated in her. She's going to go, it's very difficult for her to accommodate people. She's going to try her best to accommodate people. But you're also compromising because you've given her so many days without anyone coming. You see, you work way around it. Okay? Regarding parenting, yeah, try to create a hybrid approach. Not solve the problem, because it's unsolvable. But try to come up with a hybrid approach. So, for example, in certain cases, yes, when the son is not praying, the father who's fixated that this is the way he does it, on certain days he goes and does his way, and then you agree, compromise, you agree that on certain other cases where salah time, he won't do this particular thing. She will actually practice her approach. So you come up with a hybrid approach. Remember, you're not solving this problem. The problem is still there. He has that problem, the husband. The husband has that problem where he says, no, has to be a strict thing. He has to come down. And she says, no, that is a bad approach. So you're not solving the problem, but you're actually coming up with a compromise. Do you see the difference? That's why I said there's a very fine line in terms of looking at this approach. You guys understand the difference? Yeah? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. What about the tidy and the not tidy? Okay, so one of them is tidy, one of them is untidy. Maybe come up with a compromise and say, well, okay, our bedroom should always be tidy, but it's okay that, some other places is not tidy. Okay, I can take it, but at least our bedroom needs to be tidy. Come up with a compromise. The husband is untidy. He still might be in another room, leaving his cup, leaving whatever, does all sorts of things, leaves certain things, on the floor. She says, okay. Takes a deep breath and says, I married an untidy man. That's okay. This is an unsolvable. Okay. At least my bedroom, he's going to put his clothes in the closet. At least he's doing that. We come to a compromise. Do you guys understand? And so it's so critical, my dear brothers and sisters, for you to go back home and talk to your spouse. And for you guys who are not married, you have this in mind. Yes? That 70% of our conflicts are unsolvable. Okay, so we've got many other examples. We'll move on. So the number 2 is that things will not disappear, but try to come up with a way around it and a compromise. Okay. Number 3 is have a constructive dialogue. What is wrong with us in terms of communication? We don't like talking to each other. I've seen couples, they don't talk to each other. Literally don't have like a conversation. I speak to couples, I speak to some husbands, obviously I speak to more husbands, and I say, okay, if I now take you, you go and with your wife to a holiday, for example, go away for a weekend, and you might go, walk around the beach or whatever, okay? Do you have a topic to talk about? Yeah, and they say no. We just like say, oh, this is nice, or whatever, this is good. Yeah, should we buy ice cream? I don't have a topic to talk about. If you sit down in a restaurant, what topics do you have? It's just like silence, just like eat. Some couples don't know how to talk to each other. And don't tell me, she's the problem. I can talk, but she's not, because we always want to blame. Again, it's an unsolvable. Yes? They are the ones they are the ones at fault. I'm always talkative, but she's the one who doesn't. But if she's introverted, you're extroverted, then try to find a way around it. Okay? Now, communication, we're different, men and women. Men tend to be more direct and task-oriented than in their communication. And women, they tend to be more expressive and relationship orientated in their communication. Yes, women tend to be more expressive, and men tend to be less expressive. We talked about this, okay? A technique I used with my wife, or we both used it, and it's effective, but we need to always do it, right? It's called the speak and listen technique. Anyone heard of the speak and listen technique? Okay, the speak and listen goes as follows. So after you've had a conflict, you've had some beef. تعرفون البيف؟ not chicken, no, not chicken, beef. زين خوش beef. زين you've had an unsolvable beef. Okay? عجبتكم هاي؟ لا زينة مو؟ unsolvable beef. Okay, you've had an unsolvable beef. And then what happens is that next day you're a bit, you're both holding a lot of grudges, a lot of issues. Tension, أحسنت. Yes? A lot of tension against each other. What happens is you do the speak and listen. What is the speak and listen technique? You do the following. You say, okay, so I'm going to allow you to speak for 5 minutes, say, 3-4 minutes, yeah? No, not debate. I'm going to allow you to speak. Yeah, debates is fine, by the way. Allow you to speak for 3-4 minutes, uninterrupted, and I'm going to listen. I'm not going to be on my phone. I'm not going to be like distracted. I'm going to let you speak. But when you speak, do not ever use the word you and point a finger. Why or you? Do not ever use the word you. Because what happens, this is in general, when we have a conflict or when someone is talking to someone and he says, you did this and you did that, we naturally, as human beings, we put off a defensive wall, an armor, a shield. Yes? I say, no, I didn't say this and this and that. Because you have what you've done, you've said, you have said this. Because you said this and you have upset me and you done this, I put up a armor and I say, no, I didn't. And then it becomes more of a conflict. Instead, talk about your feelings. Say I. So for example, if there was this conflict regarding parenting, you say, well, I felt intimidated. I felt very upset. Talk about your emotions. Talk about your feelings, right? I felt very sad, right? I wanted to help more, but I couldn't. No, you didn't let me. You made me feel intimidated. You the one who made me very sad. When you do that, then there's going to be a war. You're asking for a battle. You're asking for another conflict. Okay? So allow for example, if it's the husband, allow the wife to speak for 3-4 minutes, talking about her feelings, uninterrupted. Then she will allow you to speak about your feelings. خلاص طلعت كلها. You've taken everything out. Okay? Take everything out. خلاص, and then move on. Because why? You don't need to reply anymore. Because she hasn't said, you did this and you did that. Because that's only the time when we want to reply. When someone accuses us of something, says, you did this, I will then reply. Because he used I, and she used I felt sad, you might at the end actually say, I'm really sorry you felt very sad. I'm really sorry you felt very emotional at that time. Okay? You might start to apologize. You never know. يعني husbands can apologize. ها؟ لا باي gift خليها لك. It's too much. Don't let تثخنها كلش. Right. So it's called the what? It's the speak and listen technique. Yes? So it's not character assassin. Don't assassinate the character. You know what I mean? Just don't accuse the character. Just say, I felt like this and I felt like that. Okay? So have a constructive dialogue. Number 4 is reach a compromise. We've talked about compromise, yes. The goal is to remove the hurt, not solve the problem. Find some common ground. Find the middle ground. We've talked about this. Number 5, and finally, and inshallah later on we'll also, and another time we'll talk about emotional intelligence. You guys have heard of emotional intelligence? Be emotionally intelligent, EQ. Okay? Be emotionally intelligent. Emotional intelligence means that you understand and comprehend the emotions of yourself and the people around you. And if you're emotionally intelligent, you understand the emotions of your wife or your spouse, yes? Then you know that this triggers them. This makes them angry, so I'm not going to make them angry. And I must say, because more men get angrier than women, usually, but maybe these days it's the same. But the wives need to understand what actually makes the husband angry or not. If this particular thing makes the husband angry, try to avoid it. Yes? Because you don't want to make sure, you want to make sure that this there isn't a conflict or he doesn't get angry. And the same thing with the wives. If you know the wife gets angry regarding this particular issue, try to avoid it when you become emotionally intelligent. Now, finally, with all this, 70% unsolvable, 30% solvable, many, unfortunately, people don't come to a compromise. They have a lot of conflicts. They have a lot of fights because of these deep-seated issues, okay? They have reached the end and they want the D word. They come to us and say, I want a divorce. أنا هذا ما أتحملها بعد ما أقدر. ما أقدر. وهاي تقول هذا بعد ما أقدر أقعد وياه. I can't sit down with this guy. I can't be the wife for this person. Yes? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and we started with this particular verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says something beautiful. Okay? And I hope and pray that all these people who are thinking of divorce, you go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In chapter 4, verse number 35, وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ شِقَاقَ بَيْنِهِمَا. If you, what? You fear, shiqaq is like a breach between the two. Yes? Then what do you do? شنو يسوي? فَابْعَثُوا what? حَكَمًا من أهله وحكما من أهلها. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is coming up with a solution. This is Allah speaking. He says, look, if you fear that this couple don't get on with each other, then I have a solution for you. In fact, I have 2 solutions for you. The second one is even more powerful. The first one is bring hakaman, like someone who is wise, someone who's like a mediator, okay? From her side, intelligent, from her side, because this person, she, obviously there's no person who's going to, or it's rare to find one person who's going to be very neutral. One person from her side and then a person from another side, from your side, okay? You bring them together, min ahlihi, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then try to sort out the problem. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says something really profound. And I hope and pray that whoever is listening, who is thinking about divorce, reads this 1,000,000 times. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِن يُرِيدَ شنو? إِصْلَاحًا إِن يُرِيدَ إِصْلَاح. If they want islah. If they want islah, شنو? يُوَفِّقِ اللَّهُ بَيْنَهُمَا. It's a guarantee. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you want to make amendments, right? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it happen. It's a guarantee that He will make sure this islah is established. If you want, in yurida islahan, if you want the wife, if you want the husband, if you want islah, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make that happen. Because Allah loves islah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants that union. Right? What did we say yesterday in terms of the hadith, the narration from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? The best thing, project, institution, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is marriage. And the worst one is divorce, right? So, and then we know that it is the worst of the halals, right? Or the most detested of halals. أكره أبغض الحلال عند الله الطلاق, right? So, إن يريد إصلاحا يوفق الله بينهما إن الله كان عليما خبيرا. And final words, I say divorce, but I need to make sure also that sometimes divorce is necessary. When we cross red flags. In my opinion, red flags are physical abuse, yes, psychological abuse, cheating, and also really important spiritual abuse. Have you heard of spiritual abuse? Yeah. So some people, of course, these things can be resolved as well, through islah and stuff like that, but they are red flags. So spiritual abuse means that someone, they interpret Islam, interpret the Quran the way they want to interpret it, and use that as evidence against their wives or against their husbands. Yes? That's spiritual abuse. You're using Islam in your own favor so that you can get what you want. Yeah? And that's called spiritual abuse. Of course, psychological abuse is also trauma, but there is a debate about what does psychological abuse mean. Because if someone has a conflict and they insult each other and say bad words to each other, is that psychological abuse? Maybe someone comes and says he psychologically abused me or she psychologically abused me. Okay? So there's a lot of debate in these particular issues, but it's really important that we, don't paint the whole problems and conflicts in one paint. It's really important that there are red flags that we must be aware of. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us, inshaAllah, tawfiq to find compromises for our unsolvable conflicts. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give that mawadda wa rahmah in relationships, inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give shifa to all those mu'mineen who are suffering from physical and mental illnesses. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the arrival of the 12th Imam, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu al-sharif. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين.